Okay. So this is kind of a test broadcast. I did one previously when I was building a character. So this time I'll do one with me animating a scene. And I got my thunderstorm white noise thing going on in the background. I'm not in the middle of a thunderstorm. That would be dangerous animating. All right, so I've got a scene here with one of my main characters, Hugh, and is hooking up to a previous scene, so that's where this pose comes from. So I've just got to animate him doing a simple, it's only about 30 frames long.
Sorry, Mom.
Kind of apologizes to his mom, a little bit of a gesture there on the board.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom.
It's nothing too crazy. I might jazz it up a bit. Oh. Get going here. So look at my guy.
Sorry, Mom.
He does a bit of a breath intake there. I don't know if you guys can hear it. So I'll probably have him react there. I'll turn off the audio so it doesn't get too annoying for you guys. Normally I've got the audio running the entire time, and it's just something I've grown a deaf ear to as an animator. I can hear the same audio again and again and again without it getting too annoying. All right, so I'll lay down a keyframe. I've got up here on my timeline, I've got Hugh kind of collapsed into one peg, just so I can do all my animation on one peg if necessary. And I've kind of turned his head here to be looking at his mom, who's over here on the side of the screen. So I'm going to want to reposition all these features back to the middle of his head, I think, get it back to his default position. So I'll do that by like selecting a piece and then hitting B on my keyboard. That goes up the hierarchy tree there, selects all the different elements that I've got pegged together. So in this case, it's his face. And if I hit Shift R, it's going to pop them back to their default positions where they were built at. I do the same with those other pieces. His hair here looks a little weird, just again because I've turned it to the side. I'll hit R to return that to its default position. Shift R for the ear. There we go. Now he's back more in regular position. This eye looks a little bit weird though, because I squished it to give it sort of an appearance of perspective. So I'll Shift R that, and the other one as well. And then just check these individual pieces to make sure everything here is in position. That nose has gotten a little stretched out, so Shift R to pop that back into position. And the mouth, I know I moved that as well. So the problem with the mouth is if I hit Shift R, you'll notice it pops way off. And that's because its default position is like way down here. And part of the reason for that is that I'm using something happens with the eyes. I'm using a set of default eyes and a mouth for all my male characters, and a set of eyes and a mouth for all my female characters, just to save me time building stuff. And then changing, the color of the eyes and the shape of the head and stuff to make the character stand out a bit. Unfortunately, that means that the default position of them sometimes changes when you go to reset it. Anyway, so that's, we get that. You can see that sort of turn effect I was going for. Anyway, so since he's kind of breathing a sigh, I'm going to have him bend down a bit. So I've built a deformer into his torso. So I can use that to curve his body around. Instead of having to redraw bodies and stuff, I can just curve the one body, and then if a move or a pose gets too extreme, I draw a whole new body at that point. But for slight changes, it's okay to just deform it, and it makes for smoother animation too. It's also way less time consuming. So he's going to come forward and lean his head down. Oh. Right, and then he's kind of embarrassed because his mom caught him yelling at his video game. So I'll give him a bit of an embarrassed expression. I've preset up Hugh with a bunch of, again, one of the reasons I'm doing a bunch of default faces or eyes and mouths is that I can do a bunch of expressions sort of off the bat and then reuse those expressions on all my characters. I'll sometimes change the shape of the eyebrow though, just to help them stand apart in the different characters. Anyway, so here's kind of a remorseful looking face. And See on the edge of his bed and his arm is planted on it, so I'm going to want that hand to stay planted. So I'll just turn onion skinning here, so I can see where the arm was previously. And then I'll just skew it to match up to its original position a bit. There we go. I can sort of flip that. Okay, looks like it's arm planted. And then we'll do a face palm. I think that's appropriate for him sighing, being upset his mom's caught him swearing at his video game. So I'm going to cycle through some different arms I've got for Hugh here. And also, oops, kind of reset the size of these. I like to reset stuff every so often, especially when I'm doing a new pose. Just make sure I'm not building like a, I'm not building like a deformed piece on top of a deformed piece. I run into a bit of an issue here. That's just based on something I tried earlier that didn't quite work out. There we go. All right, so that's that arm back in the default position. So I'll kind of bend it up here. And I think I've got an appropriate hand already. There we go. That'll work for a face palm. So we can see we've got a bit of a layering issue here. The hand is behind the head. So if I was working in Flash, I don't want to rag on Flash, but if I was working in Flash, this would be an issue. I'd have to like go in and build a new piece that's like up here on the timeline above the head. But because it's Toon Boom, we're working with real 3D space. I can just hold Alt and tap my down cursor key, pop that in front of everything else. One of the many huge benefits of working in Toon Boom. All right, so I'll post that up a bit. All right, so I'm having some problems getting this hand to be precisely where I want it. That works okay. It's a little stiff though. So something else you can do in Toon Boom on the fly, which is kind of cool, is you can add deformers to things. Kind of like I added a deformer here to the torso. I might add one to the arm here, just so I can bend it, get a bit of a curve to it so it's not quite so straight, and it helped get more of a nice C curve on this arm, doing the face plant. So to do that, I'll just make these parts invisible for the moment. Select my object, go up here to my deformer key, and I want to do a spline deformer, so I'm going to click and drag to create a deformer. Go back to my animation tool. Now I can see that I've added a deformer to this object, and I can throw some curves on it. Easy peasy. All right, bring back my pieces. And now I can pull this guy out a bit. One issue when adding deformers like this with parts that are going to interact with other parts is as soon as you do that, you get a little bit of a disconnect. You'll see that the if I try to rotate the arm here, it doesn't take the deformer with it. And you'll notice that the hand is being deformed weirdly when I move the deformer on the arm. So I might want to do a little bit of architecture on the character's build here. So if I go back to the network, you can see our network here. There's a deformer that I just made. It's attached to the hand or the arm. So a couple things I want to do here. Number one is I want the hand to follow the deformer, not be deformed by the deformer. And since it's plugged into the arm, it's being deformed by the deformer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my deformer, go up here to create kinematic output, click that. You'll notice it creates another little green square there. So instead of plugging the hand into the arm to create the hierarchy, I'm going to plug it into the kinematic output there. You notice it pops off a bit, and that's because I've been messing with the hierarchy. What you want to do at the start and not do things like this later on in your animation. Because the more you change things like this later on in the animation, the more you're going to have to go back and correct little errors, like things popping off. But anyway, I've attached the arm to that kinematic output, so now, no matter what I do, how crazy I get with this deformer, you notice that the hand follows it, but doesn't get deformed by it. That's important. Another thing I might want to do is, like I said, if I rotate that, the deformer doesn't go with it, but I want them to work together. They should be a team now. So I go to my arm, go to layer properties, turn off animate using animation tools. Now, you're looking a little weird, but you'll notice that I can't move the forearm there without the deformer going with it. Unfortunately, it's moving all my arms for now because I'm not quite finished. Then what I'm going to do is select my deformation there, hit Control P. It's going to create a peg. And now, see, I've got a little box around my arm, and now I can move both of them at the same time. Unfortunately, my rotation point is kind of up here, which is no good. I want to permanently move that, so I'm going to use the rotation tool. And in Toon Boom, moving your pivot point with the rotation tool permanently changes the pivot point. All right. That took a lot longer than it normally would just because I was describing the process. Normally that's like a 3-click process. But now, I've got this deformer attached to the arm, so I can use it to create more of an appealing kind of arc here. And sort of tweak this arm to my heart's content. There we go. And that front hand's kind of messed up now, again, because we played around with the hierarchy. Again, you're going to want to do these sorts of changes early on in your animation process, not later. Anyway, so there's pose number 2. So he sized down to pose number 2.
Sorry. Sorry.
Now he's apologizing, he's saying, sorry, Mom. So he's probably going to want to pop back up to his original position. Or something close to it. So I'm just going to go up here, grab a key where he's in his original position, hold Control and drag. And I'll take the information from that frame and pull it over. I'll keep this arm though, so I'm going to select this arm, copy it, paste it. The hand, copy, paste. I'll repose out this arm here. Again, because I've got that deformer on it, I can play around with the arc. When I animate this, I can add a little overshoot and settle using the arc if I want. And that hand is, of course, no longer appropriate. So let's see if we've got an appropriate one. That works. That's okay. Pretty sure I had another hand on the other arm. Nope. All right, let's do some exploring here. I go to my library. In parenthesis, humor, characters. Here's hue. I'm just going to right-click on that and go edit template. So this is a template I've got saved for the character hue. It has this basic build in it. And then anytime I make changes to the build in a scene, like say create a new hand or create a new arm or a new facial expression or something, I just open up this template and I'll paste those changes into it. And that way I know that whenever I bring in this copy of hue, it's got all the changes I've made throughout the course of the episode on it. So you can see here's my starting hue. If I go forward in time, here's all his different expressions, along with his lip sync. And here we got a few extra pieces I've added over time, extra bodies and such. And I'm pretty sure I've got another hand that isn't in this build. There it is. Those are the two I've got. That one looks pretty good though. I might want to use that. I like the perspective on that a little bit more. So all I have to do here is just copy that, Control C, and usually, not always, but usually, things move pretty smoothly between Harmony files. So hopefully I'm just able to click on this and go paste. There we go. Brought the hand in. And the reason it popped around like that was it brought the transformation information in as well as the drawing information. Actually, just as a demo, let's say I didn't want this to change positions. I'll just open up Hue here again. So I select the hand I want, and then just make sure that up here I've just got the drawing information selection here selected. There's three options. You've got drawing information and peg information, just peg information, and just drawing information. So if I want to grab information off the timeline, I can grab just the drawing information, copy that, come over here, select it here too, and paste it. And there we go. See, it brings in the drawing information, but it uses the existing peg information so the hand doesn't pop away. Normally I just bring in both at the same time and readjust it, because that takes less time than turning all these switches off and on. But I'm here to show you guys things. Why not? Anyway, so there we go. There's our next pose. Oh, his face is popped back to the sideways view. I think I'm going to want to keep it in the more traditional 3/4 front view there. His default sort of 3/4 front perspective. So I'll just grab the face information and paste it there. And then reset the hair and the ear again. There we go. All right, talking to his mom. We'll open his eyes. You can have that worried expression there. And have him look up at where his mom will be. Saying, sorry, Mom. He looks pretty apologetic there. We'll lock that. Sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry.
He's got that sort of smiling but sad look on his face, so let's see if we can reproduce that a bit. There we go. That's pretty good. And yeah, maybe tilt his head a bit, just so there's a bit more movement in the animation. Won't look quite so. There we go. Nice. All right. Cool. I will periodically, this is almost like just a twitch or something I do, just because I've been burned so many times. I want to make sure I'll just go over my keyframes periodically and just like hit the add keyframe button again, just to make sure that everything underneath this peg has had a key added to it. Because I don't want to start tweening and then some items get missed because they're not keyed. That used to happen to me a lot when I was starting out. It's really frustrating to go back in and sort of untangle that mess. So what do we got here? So now I've got my main key poses. I'll start thinking about breakdowns. So hue going here to here. Give a very quick movement. So I'll add another keyframe here. Add some auto tweening. I want it to be a quick motion, and auto tween does everything evenly by default. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my last keyframe there. Use this tool, which is the Set Ease for Multiple Parameters tool. And here we see a visual sort of a description of the timing. It's straight lines, which means everything's even. I'm going to want to favor my last key here. If you're into animation, you know that you're always favoring one key or another. I like to use ratios of like quarters, so like 25, 50, 75, 100. And the more intense, I just make it a bigger quarter. Some people like to use more specific numbers, but I'm dumb and like to just use this set of 3 or 4 that I'm comfortable with. And it's going to be quick. So I'm going to make it 75. You can see the curve changes there. Apply that, close. I should have done this with onion skinning on so you can see. Anyway, with onion skinning on, you can see now it's really favoring the green area. I'll go back and reset that just so you can see what's up. So set that back to 0. All right, now you can see it's kind of in the middle of the red and the green. 75. That's favoring the green. So it's favoring that second position there. So I'll add a key, just lock that down, turn off auto tweening. I tend not to leave auto tweening on. I like things on 2s. I like to look at as much like traditional animation as I can get it. All right, so now I'll just go in and fix some mistakes. Because I locked down this hand when I was doing my keys, it's sort of auto-tweened its position, so I don't really have to mess with that. It's also off screen. I just like to make sure things look okay. All right, this arm. I feel like I want to create a bit of an arc here. I'll actually have that come out a bit. And his hand is probably going to open at this point. Ooh, that's nice. That'll probably work. So the hand's going to kind of open. And his eyes are going to be closing, if not already closed at this point. So I'll do half closed. All right. I'm going to want to really feel the impact of that face palm. So I'm going to add another breakdown here between these two. Auto tween. And again, I'm going to favor that last position. Let's do it 50 this time. So we're still getting some movement in the character. All right. Except on this frame, the hand in position pretty much. I'm actually going to overshoot it. Add a little bit of squash here. Kind of squash the hand too. Kind of flip between them. Add a bit more squash. And just really try to get a feeling like impacting with the face here and then settling backwards. All right. And we'll steal the face from here too. Place that there. What do we got? We got our breakdown of him starting to come down, face impacting, or palm impacting the face, and then a settle there. All right, I probably don't need too many more frames here. I'm gonna add a little space here, auto tween, and then just ease into that final position there. Let's do that. 50. Again, favoring the last position. Then I'll add some keys to lock that down. That might be a little too tweened. So I'll remove one of those keyframes. All right. Put everything on 2s. And there's my motion. So you got a bit of an issue here. Fix that, not sure what happened. And we can play that and see how it looks.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom.
All right, it's not bad. It's maybe a bit too much of a jump here, so I'll tween that. This time I'll favor the starting peg. 50. Add a bit more favor. Oh, put on the wrong side, that's what happened. There we go, 50 on that side. That's more like it. Add a key, get rid of that one. And maybe add a bit of drag to this hand here.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry.
Turn off that audio so it doesn't drive you crazy. And just set my last key to be there for the moment. So that's pretty good. It's nice and snappy. I said I want it to be a fast movement. That's certainly the case. If I was animating on 1s, I might put another frame here. Add a little snap to the wrist. Since I've gone to the trouble of adding that deformer, you can have some fun with it sometimes. A little problem with digital animation is that you can have a little too much fun, keep tweaking things ad nauseum. A little bit crazy, but it's on 1, so let's see how that looks. That's fun. I don't usually animate on 1s, but I might keep that. Yeah, it's fun. I'll keep that. All right. So that's our first motion. Hugh sighing. And then the second one's going to be him apologizing to his mom. So how do I want to do this motion? All right. Well, maybe I'll have him antic down first. So again, that's nice and easy. I'll add a keyframe there. Use my deformer to bring him down a bit. And kind of move that head down a bit. So adding some antic. Again, I want to make sure this hand stays planted, so I'll turn on onion skinning. And maybe add a bit of a bend to the arm there. All right, got a bit of a disconnect. I'll try to line up that arm a bit. Cool, that looks good. So a bit of an antic down. We'll have the arms start to come off here. Again, kind of fun with that deformer added. Is anticing down. Cool. All right, so think about a breakdown between here and here. I try never to go point A to B, like in a straight line. That's pretty uninteresting. And I mean, the first thing they teach in most animation schools is that everything moves on arcs all the time, especially organic things. So I might try to put a bit of an arc on this. So he's antic down, he's coming back. Let's see, try onion skinning just so I can see my positions. And I'll drag this down a bit. Maybe I'll add a little bit of overall squash. And drag that head a bit. This will be a breakdown, so we won't be seeing it for very long. We can deform it a little bit, and it won't read. All right. I got some nice motion on the hand here, on the arm rather, for this gesture. So I'm probably going to want him to overshoot the arm and then settle back into this position. So I'm going to add another breakdown here between these two frames. Sorry, just 1 second here. So I'm going to add another breakdown here. Oops. Bit of an echo. Okay. All right, so like I said, one more breakdown here. I'm going to want to favor this end key. So I'll use my set ease for multiple parameters tool again, make sure I've got that last key selected, and I'll favor it at 50. Huge motion. I just want to make sure I'm favoring it a little bit. Lock it down with the keyframe. All right, so this breakdown is about the arm overshooting. So I'll grab this arm pose here, copy it, go to the frame where I want to overshoot, paste it. I'll grab the hand too. That. All right, so now I've got a copy of that pose. And I'll kind of work backward based on that. I like to, I don't know, base my poses on existing drawings or existing frames, just because it'll be easier to sort of ease back into it. If I try to eyeball everything, I find things get really shaky. That might just be me not being the best. But this way also goes kind of quick. And for most of the stuff I work on, speed is kind of the name of the game. So I've got some overshoot and settle back. I've lost the plot on this arm a bit. I'll make sure that is locked in position. So I'll adjust this. I like to use skew more than rotate because it adds little imperfections to the animation, which help it look a little bit more organic and less digital. You're never going to fully escape it, but you can mitigate it. There we go. So it's locked there. That looks pretty good. And that comes up a bit. I can probably do better. So I'll, again, using skew on the different parts. A little bit of squash and stretch, just a touch. Try to line that up a bit better. Cool. There we go. Bit of a pop there. That's hands off screen. I shouldn't focus on too much. That's just me getting in a little too deep. All right. So I think we've got our I think we've got our breakdowns here. So let's see what we need animation-wise. All right, so the antic down. So we probably need something there. And I want to settle, so I'll need something there. So I'll start with the settle because that's easy. I just want to settle from this key to this key. So again, set ease for multiple parameters. I'll ease into it at 50. Let's do 75. Really kind of favor that last key there. Yeah. Cool. All right, and then between these guys, I'll probably just keep the even timing for now and then tweak the animation by hand. Just add a little bit of drag or something. That's probably going to pop too. But we'll deal with that in a second. All right. So I'll put this on 2s. And then just set my preview to just look at these frames. That's awful slow. And I'm now thinking that that antic isn't necessary. So I'm actually going to lose that antic and just have him go down into the, just have him go down into the arc. All right, so that's not bad. The arm pop is distracting though, so I'm just going to mask that for a second. All right, not a bad basis. What do we got? All right. First of all, that is broken. So let's see if we can find a better hand for it. All right. We'll add a little bit of a drag there with the deformer. This is a tween, so it won't read too long. All right, and then the arc. This arm doesn't make any sense now. So what I'm actually going to do is kind of go into Hugh's build here. Go to my arm peg and just tweak the animation on it specifically. Because I'm kind of okay with the torso and stuff, I don't want to mess with it, but yeah, that arm doesn't make any sense now. So I'll just add a keyframe here, delete that keyframe, just clean it. There we go, that arc works a little bit better. right, how do I feel about this? It's not bad. Could be snappier, probably. All right. Yeah, this frame might be too evenly tweened after all. Get rid of it. Create a new auto tween. This time I'm going to favor the previous frame. Get rid of all this information. Favor by 50. That's not bad. Try favoring at 75. That might be too much. Well, the great thing about digital, we can test and retest. That's a little poppier. Or snappier, I should say. Poppy's bad. Snappy's all right. All right. You know what? Good enough. The negative thing about digital is also that you can test and test and test nonstop and just kind of test yourself into a hole. All right, that'll serve our purposes though. I just add a bit more drag there. Oh, finger's a bit of a tangent. Let's extend that so it overlaps the line a bit. Oops, get that off key. There we go. All right, and then one more frame of Visa here, I think. And we'll just favor that. That works all right. Cool. All right, so that's our overall motion kind of done. And that's great. So now we can start doing all the fine details. So the expression here. So in the first part, it's okay. You know, it's pretty straightforward. He closes his eyes. Fantastic. We're going to need to animate the features a bit more instead of just popping open to that position there. So what I'll do is, as I sort of mentioned earlier, I've got all my features kind of pegged to one peg there. So if I select them and then hold Shift-O, or tap it anyway, it'll fly down my key or my timeline to that face peg, appropriately named face peg. And so just like I do all my character animation on one sort of master peg, I might do all my face animation on the face peg. And again, that's just to keep things organized. So let's see. I might start by just getting rid of these keyframes because they're not really necessary. That one, I need that for the final position. So just get rid of these ones. There we go. All right, so that's his final position. I'm a sucker for overshoot and settle. So I might have him settle into this. So I'll just offset that by a couple of frames, copy it, paste it here, and then I'll overshoot it a bit. And I'll do that by just straight up increasing the scale on my eyes. I'll have a little bit of squash. Take my brows, move them up a bit, overshoot them up, add a little bit of skew, just so it doesn't look too digitally tweened. Right, so there we got my overshoot and my settle. Rad. And then we're going from this closed eye to this open eye. I might kind of antic the expression change just by squashing the facial features a bit. So I'll add a keyframe going in. My eye peg there, squash everything. Select the other eye peg, squash everything. The more you can move individual pieces, again, the less digitally manipulated it'll look. So I'll kind of tweak the brows on top of that. So now I've got kind of an antic down there. And it's going to pop open to that and settle. All right, so where do I want this to happen? So let's say he antics close there. Opens here, settles there. We have a lot of time here. Ah, that might work. Yeah, let's try that timing. All right. So for the antic down, I don't really need to tween to that. He's going to be moving at the same time, so honestly, we may not even see it. So I'll tween these guys, grab that one in the middle. All right, the eyes are starting to open here. I've got a cell for that. There it is. They open there. And I'll auto tween between here and the final position. I'll favor the final position. There we go. I like to have a little overshoot and settle when I do expression changes, especially if it's parts of the face are in a similar position. So for example, here it's the brows. The brows in this position, the brows in this position it's the same drawing and they're in basically the same spot. So just to show a little bit of movement, you know, some antic overshoot, shoot, settle shows it, like, you know, draws the audience's attention to it, that something is going on there, and it just looks nicer and a little bit softer than just snapping into that new expression. All right, so that's us. So let's see how that looks. Kind of all together.
Sorry, Ma. Sorry, Ma. Sorry, Ma. Sorry, Ma. Sorry, Ma.
All right, it's not bad. I kind of like. Yeah, I'm gonna have that face palm happen a little earlier. So that's these keys here. I'm just gonna bring that back a couple of frames, see what happens.
Sorry, Ma.
That feels a bit better.
Sorry, Ma. Sorry, Ma. Sorry, Ma.
His arm's a little too rubbery. I had a little bit too much fun with that deformer, but it's fine. We'll leave it.
Sorry, Ma.
It's okay to have fun. We animate.
Sorry, Ma.
Because we like having fun.
Sorry, Ma. Sorry, Ma.
Cool. That looks good. All right, I'm pretty pleased with it. So last thing is lip sync. Oh, it's like my mouth. Hit Shift-O again, and that just jumps me to the mouth, my timeline. And then basically I'll just scrub and do my lip sync. So what do we got here? It does that sigh. It's pretty subtle. Shouldn't be a closed mouth, though. I don't think I need to open the mouth. You might just be sighing through grit teeth. Let's see what open mouth looks like. Yeah, that looks all right. You guys might not be able to hear the sigh. It's very quiet. Maybe have that happen a bit earlier. All right. Then sorry is closed teeth, so we're already there. Saw. The A part of sorry is the big open mouth. Saw. back to Big Mouth here, probably. Oh yeah, and he's smiling at this point too, because he's doing that like nervous kind of apology. So I should switch to the happy mouths.
Sorry, Mom.
There we go.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom.
All right, so that should probably be closed mouth and not clenched teeth, because that's the mm of mom.
Sorry, Mom.
That looks better.
Mom.
May not actually finish the word mom in this scene as well. So the mouth is probably still open.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah, I think it finishes in the next scene.
Sorry, Mom.
All right. Let's just give that another couple of tests here, see what we think.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom.
All right. So I think Hugh's done. Then we've got Hugh's mom. He's striking family resemblance there.
Sorry, Mom.
She pretty much just stands in the doorway and is mad. So we don't have to do too much for her. You notice there's a slight discrepancy between the animatic and the position of the characters. I grabbed these characters from a previous scene, so it does match to the previous scene. There was just some slight changes between storyboarding and now as far as the layout goes. As a matter of fact, I'll just turn that off so it's not confusing.
Sorry, Mom.
All right, I want to add a little bit of life to mom. So close her mouth, first of all.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry.
And maybe just give her a blink.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry.
Right here. So all we'll do for that is Hugh's mom's eye master peg. And how does she blink? She's kind of a tertiary character, so I haven't thought about how she works too much. The eyes will close. That is a traditional blink thing to happen. Lower those brows a bit. Right. Just out of curiosity, she have Spider-Man-like glasses where the glasses kind of move as the eye moves? No, I don't think they do. I don't think they do. I'll just add a little bit more squash here. That's it, I think. So they'll squash down, and I'll just steal this key. Bring back to the open position. All right. Those keyframes. It's a background character blinking, so I'm not going to lose my mind about favoring specific pegs and stuff. The audience's attention isn't going to be there. Instead, I'll just, as the eye starts to close, swap over to this drawing. And back up to this drawing. Like that. That'll probably work. Let's see.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom.
All right, so quick. Sit on the closed eye for a couple of frames. Forgot about that.
Sorry, Mom.
That's a bit better.
Sorry, Mom.
Again, it's a background character. We just don't want her to be totally lifeless.
Sorry, Mom.
But it's a quick scene. You know, we don't want her stealing attention away from Hugh in the foreground.
Sorry, Mom.
Especially since we did this nice animation.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Ma. Sorry, Ma. Sorry, Ma.
Perfect. And then, yeah, I can turn on the camera mask there, turn off my deformer, and then kind of check out what the scene will look
Sorry,
like.
Ma. Sorry, Ma. Sorry, Ma.
Good. All right. I think I'm ready to call that one done. That was just a quick look at my process. It's a quick scene, not a whole lot going on. Some simple character acting, but it's it's fun and it's kind of typical of what I have to do in Toon Boom Harmony whenever I'm animating one of these pilots or even some studio stuff. This isn't very far removed for what I've done for TV shows. If you have any questions for me, I guess leave them in the comments, and I'll do this again a little bit later and maybe tackle some topics that people are curious about. Anyway, thanks for watching.